Because of Facebook and email, our supporters can reach everybody in the US, and they can do that a lot more powerfully than we can. Voters don't like advertisements, but they trust their friends. This was the fundamental principle of the Obama campaign. That was Teddy Goff, digital director for President Obama, articulating why supporters were the key to Obama's success in 2012. Goff became leader of Hillary Clinton's digital strategy team, which is the focus of part 3 of this video, The Mystery. Goff focused on Clinton's supporters because, just like with Obama, they were connected to everyone in the country through email and social media. So Goff's strategy was to have those supporters send messages to their friends to provoke them to vote for Hillary. But Clinton supporters didn't just send one message to one large group. They sent many personalized messages to their friends, some of whom were swing voters, but many of whom were not. Of course, Clinton's team also used digital ads, but that wasn't their focus because Goff thought digital ads weren't very powerful. Here's Teddy Goff as Hillary Clinton's chief digital strategist, explaining why digital ads weren't a priority. Quote, "There's not yet a technology that's more important than a person-to-person conversation. That's a quantified fact." When Goff says there's not yet a technology, he's referring to the matching problem that we covered in the introduction video. Matching message to audience is the key to persuasion, and it's difficult for conventional communications to make that match. Friends have a higher chance of delivering a compelling message since they're trusted and they know the audience. And this is part of why Goff made supporters the focus of Clinton's digital strategy. Here's how Goff articulated the role of digital media in a modern campaign. 40 years ago, or even 20 years ago, campaigns were battling over a tiny number of people who lived in a tiny number of states. What the internet has allowed us to do is democratize all of that. We've got to care as much about engaging our supporters as we do about the hearts and minds of 2% of people in Ohio. This is huge. What Goff is saying here is that marketing to the 2% of people in Ohio, meaning the swing voters, used to be a campaign's highest priority. But now, because of the internet, that's less important. Goff goes on to explain why engaging supporters is now his top priority. It used to be that volunteering was encouraged, but if you didn't live within a few miles of a field office in a battleground state, you weren't going to participate. Now, if you want to take 10 seconds, wherever you live, you can influence what your friends are thinking. Goff's focus was engaging supporters wherever they live. What Goff is saying is that before the internet, a local supporter in a battleground state could communicate with voters who mattered. But geography prevented all the other supporters from having an impact. They were just too far away. But now, because of email and social media, supporters from around the country can contact voters in battleground states. So Goff's digital strategy was to have lots of supporters send lots of messages to people in battleground states. But supporters still faced the matching problem. They still struggled to identify swing voters and to send them compelling messages. So Goff's strategy was to send lots of messages, knowing that many of those messages would fall flat, but hoping that some of them would be effective. Goff went on to talk about how the campaign was using data for text messages or SMSs. Quote, "The coolest thing we've done with data is the SMS equivalent of a phone bank, a one-on-one interaction between a volunteer and a voter via SMS. We encourage you to customize the SMS so that it's a real human interaction." The idea of encouraging customization has tremendous consequences. Ideally, the Clinton campaign would monitor the messages that supporters sent to swing voters to identify compelling messages and to amplify those messages. Customization means more messages miss their mark. We'll explore this in detail in the persuasion video. Here's how Goff summarized the goals for the Clinton campaign. Our objective is to take the old school, tried and true ways to turn people out to vote and make them more effective and efficient. Goff was focused on what was tried and true in 2008 and 2012, when he worked for Obama, when most ads were conventional ads that delivered weak, impersonal messages. Goff didn't realize that in 2016, micro-targeted ads made influence affordable. Almost as an afterthought, Goff noted, "Media in this election is interesting because so much more of the ad inventory is addressable than ever before." Addressable ad inventory is another way to say micro-targeted digital ads. It wasn't that Goff was unaware of micro-targeting, he just didn't think it was very important. Digital strategy by Goff translated into decisions by the Clinton campaign. For instance, staff from Facebook and Google and Twitter embedded with Trump's team to facilitate digital advertising. But Clinton's campaign declined to do the same. Goff's strategy also determined the ad spending in October and November, which we now know is when swing voters surged for Trump. In that period, Clinton outspent Trump on advertising $125 million to just $100 million. But Clinton's team focused on conventional media, outspending Trump by almost 2-to-1 on television and radio. By contrast, Trump spent twice as much as Clinton for online ads. Here's how the campaign spent on ads by day. Clinton outspent Trump on media almost every day, and in November, Trump made no new media purchases. Online, Trump outspent Clinton every day, including a surge of spending in the last week. In the end, Clinton's campaign spent more than $100 million on conventional media to show weak, impersonal ads to large audiences, most of whom weren't swing voters. For context, there are 330 million Americans. Most of us live in states that vote reliably, states such as California and Texas. Still, 130 million people live in battleground states, and advertising to all those people is expensive. Most people in those battleground states have firm opinions. Clinton didn't want to pay to advertise to those people, but with conventional media, she didn't have a choice. What Clinton really wanted to do was show ads to the 13 million swing voters in those states. But to show ads to 13 million people, Clinton paid for an audience of 130 million people. With conventional advertising, 90% of the audience was a waste, but Clinton's team prioritized it anyway, because that was the old school, tried and true way to turn people out to vote. On top of all that wasted money, Clinton was still faced with the matching problem when it came to conventional ads. Her team knew that in those battleground states, there were swing voters like teachers who were passionate about public schools and education, and nurses who found healthcare compelling. Hillary Clinton even had ads about education and ads about hospitals to persuade those voters. But with conventional media, Clinton was prevented from matching the right ad to the right audience. To summarize, Clinton's digital strategy was to prioritize supporters and to also use conventional ads. But for Clinton and Goff, digital ads weren't a priority. Essentially, the media strategy for Clinton and Goff was spray and pray. Send lots of messages from friends in conventional ads and hope that a few messages resonate and result in votes. As we know from election night, this strategy didn't work. So let's consider the last messenger influencing swing voters: Donald Trump's team, Cambridge Analytica.